Welcome to CPG Vibes. This 194. Is that right?
194.
194. 194. We are on the march to 200. Gavin, what's happening?
Man, it has been another awesome week here in South Carolina. Our snow, looking outside, is mostly melted. The only stuff that's left over is the stuff that was piled up. We ended up getting 8 inches here, Wade.
We got almost a foot here. And it was crazy because then we ended up getting I actually got a little bit on Wednesday night, Thursday morning as well. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, we got 8 inches on Saturday morning throughout that evening. It was pretty cool to see,
For a minute.
for a minute.
Mm.
Um, and the next day was I think we woke up to like 4 degrees or 5 degrees or something like that. It was cold and coming from Michigan and moving down here, it's cool to have it for a day or roughly a week, I guess. And I'm glad. I mean, today it's nice. It's bright and sunny outside. I think it's almost 50 degrees. Feels great.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But well, welcome everyone that's joining us. I see we got Peter, Rich, Melissa, Sean for starters. Good to see everybody. If you're listening after the fact or tuning in for the first time for a minute, uh, make sure you give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. The old episodes are all there too for you to get caught up on all the fun. Let's see, just some comments. Shoot, the opening ceremonies, Rich says, are for the
Dude,
Olympics.
it's kind of weird because I
Seems
saw
like
the
it should be
Lindsay.
after the Super Bowl, but
Yeah, and like I saw Lindsey Vonn, like she tore her ACL last week, and I saw her doing the qualifying things this morning on a torn ACL, which is just crazy to see. Going downhill as fast as she's going downhill and actually completing her little race there. That's crazy. But I actually haven't seen a lot of publicity on the Olympics this year, so I was not even aware that they started this week.
no, no, I was for some reason I had in my head it was next week, so just
Yeah,
have
and
to
then to
check
your
that out.
point and to Sean's point, Super Bowl,
Yeah.
Sunday, which is I'm looking forward to it. I know they've released some commercials already that are kinda cool. I saw a Jurassic Park one
Mhm.
for, I think, Xfinity, if I remember correctly. That was kinda, brings back the '90s in me. Sean's out there selling Super Bowl squares. I actually got a text from him the other day, and I was working out, I think, at 8 o'clock or so I gotta respond back to him and buy one of those things.
Well, and I don't know if the one that I'm excited about, they've been teasing, was Danny McBride, who I'm just a huge fan of,
Dude, he hasn't been in anything in a hot
and
minute.
no, and Keegan Michael, Key is, doing, like, a State Farm campaign as founders of this fictional, rival firm, Halfway There Insurance. So, they've been teasing it with some but it's, like, coming to 8, so I'm excited to see that as well.
Danny McBride, man, he's been in some, Eastbound and Down was a
Ooh,
funny
Vice
one. Tropic
Principals.
Thunder, his character in Tropic Thunder was hilarious.
Yeah, Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, and Righteous Gemstones. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that guy.
quite a few good ones, yeah.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Well,
Do you have a
what
dog in the race this weekend,
a
Wade? Are
dog.
you rooting for anybody? You just rooting
No,
for a good game?
I was talking to somebody earlier. I said I feel like I think the Seahawks are going to win, but I'd like to see the Patriots win.
Yeah, I think both are really good stories. The Patriots obviously last year, I think they won 3 or 4 games. So to see them turn it around, they fired their whole entire coaching staff last year. So year 1 to win 14 games in the regular season, and I think they're true underdogs heading into this, and I think Seattle's obviously got more talent and they're a better team, but, this is why you play the games, and
Exactly.
kudos to both teams for getting there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm excited. Looking forward to it. Halftime show should be interesting, and yeah, it's looking to get some wings and some pizza and something to traditional Super Bowl fare to
Yeah,
do
I
that.
think I think the people really wanna see you get after me for making the post, or for making this event at 3 o'clock in the
Three
morning. I
o'clock,
don't know if
yeah,
anybody actually tuned in.
at 3 a.m. That
Um
would have been hilarious if, but I don't think if we don't do what we do, it doesn't actually show up. But yeah,
Well, no, so the funny thing is, I saw before as I was going to bed, I think around 8 or 9 o'clock last night or putting Theo down, um, I saw our stuff, get the notification like CPG Vibes going live. Usually
yeah,
that happens around I think 11 or 12 o'clock normally for a 3 o'clock show. I didn't think much of it, but then you just texted me this morning and let me know that I effed up. So apologize if anybody actually tuned in at 3 a.m., which I don't
N
think.
no, well, and what happened is I went to do the normal post about the show, and I'm like, it said canceled. I was like, "Did LinkedIn cancel us or what happened?" And then so I had to go into our platform StreamYard here, and it showed that, we were supposed to be on at 3 AM. Had I known, I would have set the alarm, and we could have done an early morning show. We've never done that before, so
Yeah, yeah, and, maybe we'll do one of those, in the not too distant future. I was unfortunately up. Theo woke up. He's getting his other teeth coming in outside of the main 4 on the top, and he's just, he's kinda going through it, but then he went number 2, so I had to I had to take care of that
take care of
for him.
take care of business. Take care of
Yeah.
business. Well, Gavin, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Well, Robert's joined us, Derek's joined us. What's up, fellas? I gotta put you on the spot because if you it slid under the radar this week, and if you haven't looked at Gavin's profile in a minute, you are doing something different. Why don't you fill us in, for those that are listening after the fact and can't click on Gavin's LinkedIn profile, which everybody in our audience is doing right now. Tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Yeah, so, the last year has been pretty crazy. Obviously, I was with another company for roughly a year and a half, and that was a really good ride and really good experience, and then another opportunity came up, and I took that. I was there 2 months and, found myself with I think really for me, like an opportunity of a lifetime and I'm really appreciative of that opportunity and I've already had a great week. I've been incredibly busy almost every single day and just digging in. But yeah, I took a position with Ginger Labs and I think they've been a sponsor of the show in the past. It's a functional shot. Um, uh, Obviously ginger based. We have everything that from an immunity shot to an energy shot to a digestive shot to liver cleanse shot and you name it. And then there's more innovation gonna come in the pipeline, but really good data behind it. It's a really good product. At the end of the day, it's lowest rated rating on Amazon's a 4.5, and at the highest product SKU is a 4.7. So that kind of just speaks to the quality of the product and the loyalty behind it. So yeah, I'm super happy, super proud, and at the end of the day, I think I'm going to be really, really, really happy here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you certainly deserve it, and I can attest that it's a good product. I haven't had it in a minute. Cough, but it's no, it is. I like the brand, and I'm certainly happy for you. So that's exciting, and look forward to hearing and seeing more about that as you get into the weeds with that brand. Let's see, what do we got here? We've got Derek says, I don't know, Camellia from Boron works great for teething.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's weird because you don't really want to inject your kids with, but we have been using. Ellie was been really sick over the last 2 weeks. I got that with her. Theo was a pretty good champ on his sickness, and then Kathy just kind of had a head cold for like 2 days. So we started doing some liquid Tylenol because I think Ellie had a horrible sore throat. Obviously, she can't tell us because she's not even. I mean, the twins aren't. They'll be 14 months next week. But Theo, he'll just do the screaming and stuff, and it's just like he's in pain. So he's got a couple doses of liquid Tylenol, but we
Mm,
just try to stay away from some of that stuff.
right, right.
Yeah. We aren't anti-vax. We're just trying to not be reliant on
Trying
pills
to
and
build
stuff.
some tough skin for those kids, right? Yeah,
Exactly. Got to build some little monsters, man.
exactly, exactly. So, what's going on in the CPG world this week? I know I saw uh, Bashan's got acquired by
Yeah.
Marzetti, and then I just saw breaking news. True Bar also was acquired. I don't know if you saw that one or not.
Yeah, I just saw that one earlier today.
Yeah, yeah. True Bar was acquired by, and I'm not familiar with this brand, this company, ETI Eddie Gita, 173 million. They acquired
I'm not familiar.
100% of the company, and like I said, Bashan's was acquired earlier in the week by the Marzetti company, and I'm trying to see what that number was. That one was 400 million.
Mm.
So yeah,
Hey,
it's
that's good for the industry to see some of those exits. I know True Bar has been very vocal on LinkedIn for the last is that Erica?
Yep, it's Erica.
She's a great follow in general, and
Mhm.
I've followed her story for the last 4 or 5 years on LinkedIn, and obviously very colorful and bright packaging, and, she does done a great job. So kudos to some of these guys and Bashans too, like, they, I think, blew up,
Yeah.
I wanna say right around the same time, maybe earlier than Fly By Jing. Those 2 kinda came on the scene around the same time in that international category, and kudos to them, man. I mean, it feels like, maybe CPG is turning a corner with some of these acquisitions or mergers.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You got people congratulating you, Derek, Jeff. Jeff is late. We'll excuse him since he congratulated you. Hank's here. Brianna's here. Yeah, it's exciting because we've been talking about forever and a day about the funding and things being a little bit light in that regard, and investors having expectations for their brands to turn around things, get to profit quicker.
Yep.
And so you start seeing things like this acquisitions, so maybe there is some light at the end of the tunnel and some good stuff. So
Well, and also, like, it's a good motivator, right? Because I think for the last couple years, I mean, you saw the big guys, Poppy and Siete were the 2 big
mhm,
ones last year that sold for a good chunk of change, and, this first couple months, we've already seen a couple different ones, and look, man, that's extra motivation for the entrepreneurs out there and the CEOs who are pushing to either get acquired or, uh, to your point a second ago, see light at the end of the tunnel. It might not be that far away, and, that's all good stuff. Also, something that flew under the radar, I think last week was Amazon Fresh closing
yeah,
their stores.
yeah, yeah, and
Um,
converting to Whole Foods, right?
I don't know. They didn't have that many Amazon Freshes. I know they had their Amazon Go things or whatever that was like the, uh, cardless checkout, which whatever. I don't know. I don't know if I have strong feelings towards that or not, but the Amazon Freshes, I mean, they definitely touted those, I wanna say 3, 4 years ago. Um, if they all go to Amazon or if they all go to Whole Foods.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm looking. It says will be no. It says some
Yeah.
Amazon Fresh will be converted into Whole Foods, with plans for over 100 new Whole Food stores. So
Yeah. Yeah.
let's see, Amazon Fresh and Amazon Go,
Yep.
both. So yeah,
Yep, and I'm
yeah,
not sure how many of those Amazon Goes. I think that might have been more of a Seattle-based
72,
thing. 72,
72.
okay,
Yep.
yeah. So, not a small amount,
No, no.
yeah. But, yeah, I mean, look, retail is incredibly competitive, and I think retail grocery, whew, what a time to kinda be around. I mean, Sprouts is continuously pumping out stores, new stores, and then their same store sales are growing, and you still have in the natural organic space, you still have, I think, Whole Foods with 500 plus stores, and, um, then every other regional player out there, it's a hyper competitive market. So, uh, if you're gonna enter, it's gonna be really hard to enter on a national scale, like, you'd be better off hammering a regional market first and kinda owning that. But you'd have to probably be pretty strategic in which market you go into, because
Right.
Southeast, it's dominated by Publix,
Yep.
Midwest, it's dominated by Meijer. The East, the Greater New York area, dominated by Wegmans, and then you have the other tier, retailers too. So, uh, you know, starting a retail, food chain would be pretty tough today.
Definitely, definitely. Derek says he's going to miss Amazon Fresh. Their pricing was erroneously low. Maybe that's why they're closing, right? They didn't know how to
Yeah,
do it. They didn't know how to do it. I got to make sure we talk about
yeah.
Robert here at the CHFA West Vancouver Big Show, February 2021. So that's what, 2 weeks from today. And you mentioned Melting Force and IQ Bar are going to
I
be
wanna
showing
give
up.
Robert a shout out too. He's actually done a really good job posting content lately with some of the retailers that he gets product into in Canada, and I think that's really eye-opening for me because, like, when we talk about the United States, like, if it's Deerbergs or if it's New Seasons, Bristol Farms, or Whole Foods, like, you and I think a lot of our audience understand exactly who those retailers are and where those retailers are. So Robert's kinda doing that now, with his posts, and again, I'm just assuming it's Toronto, but, it's cool to see like those Toronto stores because uh, that is a big market. You know, it's
Mhm.
10 plus million people and it's big and uh, that's it's starting to see. And Jake Carls has done it with some of his stores with midday squares, but I think Robert's taken that to another level with all the Toronto retailers.
Nice. And I'm a little bit behind. I haven't been on LinkedIn throughout the week as much as I'd like to keep up with things. But yeah, that's great. Congratulations, Robert. Hank says, Robert, did you get to play around with the berries? Is Richard still getting his? Crazy Amazon can't make it work with their name brand. Shows you how people compartmentalize. Whole Foods is okay, and Amazon Fresh and Amazon Go no go. Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I don't know what. So, yeah, Brianna says she still shops at Piggly Wiggly. Um,
Damn, I didn't even know those things still existed.
they're around there.
Uh,
Every once in a while, I'll run into one if we're on the road somewhere.
Wait, I think there was another food show this week. I think it was out in Denver.
Yep, KEHE.
KEHE.
Yep.
Any feedback?
I have not got the lowdown yet from our team. We had two people there, Tess that works closely with me, and our VP of Sales, Brandon. We're both there, and Brandon said it was well attended. It was a good time, busy.
Selling show too, right?
Yeah, it's the this would be the winter show, right?
Summer selling
Oh,
win
summer. Yeah, I got
yeah,
it
summer.
backwards. Summer,
Yeah.
summer, winter's coming up. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. I
Yep.
positive. I saw some posts when I was on LinkedIn, but I don't know. Have you heard anything yourself?
No, I've seen pictures throughout the grapevine, throughout LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. Haven't heard of the feedback. I think that wrapped up last night. I think Sean said he was on a red eye, so I'm guessing
For some
yeah.
reason, I think I was originally supposed to go, so I was on the text chain, and I got a text at noon today, my time, Eastern, that said the summer show isn't over. Keep selling in KE Connect by responding to incoming orders and securing more wins through February. That's just their window being open through the
Yeah.
13th. But I know our team came home yesterday as well.
Well, hey, look, I know we talked about trade shows a little bit last week, but I think when you have an opportunity as a brand to go to one of those selling shows where you're in those DCs and you can meet a bunch of different customers, I think that's really positive and you should be able to sell enough to cover your booth costs and cover your travel and all that kind of stuff to at least break even. Sean says it was a decent show as usual, so that's a good thing. But yeah, if you're able to interact with buyers and your retail buyers to purchase product for some of those push outs in the summer, that's great stuff.
John Paul, welcome. He says there's a nice upscale Piggly in Myrtle Beach. A funny thing is, I believe that's probably the last one I was in because I remember that one actually. So I think I was there in the fall or not the fall, like late summer last year. So good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So are you going to Expo then? In the new
I
role?
am no, I am not. So, what's really cool about the position that I'm in now, I'm uh our CEO has done an amazing job balancing all different hats. So now I'm kind of overtaking sales. I'm building the foundation now. So just trying to understand what retailers we're in, what our velocity is in those retailers. Had a great call with Spins this week. Got a bunch of data. I was able to share that data and putting together target key account targets. We have 3 DCs open with UNFI. I'm working on trying to, over the next couple of months, maximizing those DCs because they're open. Working on securing a broker for national coverage for the most part, and going to take the gloves off and just start trying to get sales. We have a really good base of sales now. We're going to scale into some new packages, multi packs, and then also looking at maximizing our existing retail partners with SKU optimization and those kinds of things. So that's gonna be my focus for, I think, the next 90 to, whatever multiplied by, 6 months is. So next 90 days, next 180
180.
days or so, yeah. So, I think the first trade show we'll probably go to is the biggest selling show since we have 3 West Coast DCs right now open, and that'll make sense to interact with those independent retailers that we might not secure over an email blast and that kind of thing. It might that might make more sense to interact with them face to face and having those shots right there. Plus, it's winter, so now we're leaning into true shot season,
Mhm.
where we do see a little bit of seasonality increase in cold flu season. So I think that's going to be our game plan. But yeah, I won't be going to Expo. I know you're going to Expo.
Yep.
That's less than a month away. I feel like at this point,
Yep.
maybe 4.5 weeks.
By the calendar is the well, yeah, especially since it's February, in a short month. Yeah, it's I'll be flying out probably what 70 3 weeks from Sunday. So
Yeah, this will be
um
my first Expo I'm missing
a
since
while.
I think the pandemic started. Yeah,
FOMO for you, huh?
I will, but um, it'll also be good, because I think even if we went to go walk, like, that's still grueling,
Mm.
and, like,
Mhm.
it's still gonna be probably $5,000 round trip between both of us and then getting hotels and stuff, so it's just
At
and then you're not
least.
getting any work done. We have a lot of work to do, and it'll allow me to just dial in with, like, literally no distractions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we easily could have titled this episode the Piggly Wiggly one because we're getting schooled. Sean says it's a good group. He loves them. Uh,
Damn, man,
Ro-
I talk shit about him
Robert says it's a big thing. Hundreds of stores across the nice strip from Mid Atlantic up through Wisconsin. Jeff first learned of them from driving Miss Daisy, and Robert says you're giving a clinic on DSD retail wormholes.
well, I think that was Bree that made the first comment on Piggly Wiggly, so
She was.
I'm gonna retract my statements and, put a bow on that, Wade.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's it's I kind of I remember probably back 15, 20 years ago in my mind. It seems like anytime I came down the southeast, it was like a predominant brand, and now I
Yes.
feel, and maybe even longer, might have been 30 years, who knows, but now living here, right, it's for me, it's Harris Teeter, it's Lowe's, it's to some extent Food Line, which is, and for me, is kind of kind of underneath that. But yeah, those are the ones that come to mind. So
Yeah, yeah, I mean, over here, it's Harris Teeter, it's Publix, it's Food Lion, and then, Fresh Market a little bit from a
mhm.
specialty standpoint. We have Lowe's over here, but it's a real big drive for us, so, like, we don't do that. And then Sam's Club from, like, a bulk shopping trip, which is where my wife and the twins are at right now.
Nice, nice. Well, they're
Yep.
spending that money, coming back with all the baby stuff.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, so Brianna says they have tons of merch that's fire, so you'll have to check that out. Melissa says she's headed to the meat conference in Maryland, meatconference.com in early March. All senior level retail D2C buyers, you may access the attendee list clicking on registration to prompt attendees list. More to come on a cruise ship show soon. That's a tongue
Oh,
twister there. That's interesting. That could be fun.
yeah. Cruise ships, man, that could be some lovely business,
Yeah,
right? Like, I know, back in my early days, which not nearly as early as yours, Wade, but close,
close.
um, we, or my company, this is what, 2011, 2012 to 14 or so. We actually private labeled some ice cream for some of those cruise lines, and, like, it's just the vanilla, right?
Mhm.
But it is millions of dollars worth of business, and they
Yeah.
just want 5-gallon tubs of vanilla and scoop, scoop, scoop all day. So,
No promoting, just low price and
yep,
give me what you got, right?
yep, and you don't realize how big those like, I'll never do a cruise ship, I don't think, because that's not my style. There's just too many people and too much of a confined space, and someone could probably talk me into it, but my initial thought is, like, I'll probably never do one of those things, but you don't really understand how big those cruise ships are until you're, like, standing next to one and how many people, like, get on and off those.
Right.
You go to Miami and you can kinda see those things real close. When I was in Puerto Rico, we went and saw those, and crazy, man.
The size is just insane, and I I actually went down a rabbit hole of watching. I can't tell you. Google it; you'll find it yourself. The name of the that you can live. You can buy a cabin, and they guarantee you a minimum of, I think, 15 years, and I forget how many ports they go over. Of course, it's just crazy. But I was watching those videos; just insane.
Yeah.
Rich says he's done some in-store eye tracking with Lowe's, and their test center is something. a full size store, fully merchandised. That sounds awesome. I would love to see that, Gavin. We should get press passes and
Yeah.
check that out because that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be super cool. I would dig that.
Yeah.
Wade, we talked about, or we didn't talk about it. I know I had a hot take a couple weeks ago about not emailing buyers on Mondays. Do you specifically have any hot takes in CPG, either on your side or the buyer side, or maybe from the sales side?
I don't know if they're hot. I wasn't prepared for this question. I I don't know. I think one of the things, and I'm going to preface this by saying it's not hot, but I think especially when you're dealing with a broker,
This is
um,
this is this is a hot take.
yeah,
I won't hot tub with strangers.
yeah,
I
yeah,
completely agree with that.
yeah, Jeff. Um, when you're working with a broker, especially, I think you have to be very clear. Oops, we're leaving it there.
Sorry.
Uh, we you have to be clear on the communication relative to the retailers. I think it can be very detrimental if you have multiple people reaching out and you know what I mean and following up, whether it's a category review or something like that. And uh, I think if you're a brand, the especially if you know the contact or you're involved in the process, right? Whether
Yeah.
directly or indirectly, um, and you're reaching out, but your broker's already doing that. I don't know what you've been on both sides.
Yeah,
I'm
that's like
putting my
that's a who's on first moment,
yeah, I'm putting my
Like,
category manager hat on, and I've got the brand coming at me saying, "What about this?" And I'm following up, and then answering the email, and then on this side, I've got the broker doing the same thing, and it's just yeah, you're just like this, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if that's hot, but I don't know. You've been on the brand side, you've been on the receiving side, on the category manager. What are your thoughts as far as that goes?
Yeah, I mean, you want one point of conversation. Um, I think if I'm a buyer and I'm getting attacked both ways from the brand salesperson, CEO, whatever, and then also getting it from the broker, it's like I'm gonna start interpreting that as desperation
Hmm.
and or way too eager or aggressive, and that can kind of, in my opinion, probably turn me off a little bit. Um, I can quickly nip that in the butt by going to the broker and be like, "Hey, I just want one point of conversation." But if that continues to happen, I mean, I think you'll start burning that bridge pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I agree. I agree. And I think, right now, we alluded to, I think last week, maybe not, we talked about, we're in the thick of category review season and all those things going on. And everybody wants those answers and they want them quick. And, there's a fine line there, right?
yeah, no, there's definitely that fine line, and I think as a brand, you have to be very cautious, uh, talking to the buyer during that review process. And if there's a defined timeline, I think you have to really stick to that defined timeline. So I think we talked about this, but if your timeline is June 31st and now it's February 6th, that's appropriate if you haven't heard any feedback, right?
Right.
Like it's past the deadline of them communicating back to you, and it's totally fair game to reach out to either the broker and the buyer in an email, or just to the buyer in general. I think you should communicate to your broker and see if they've heard anything
Hmm.
first. But if they haven't, yeah, I think that's fair game. But like if you're badgering the buyer every week or every couple weeks leading up to that January 31st date, and that's going on for 2 months or whatever, I think you're putting yourself in jeopardy at that point. And it doesn't really matter how good the brand is, you're just going to come off a certain way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and we've talked about, since we hit it on hold on, I gotta pull this up since Tia's here. Hi Tia. Maybe I missed this, but when was the shift to category manager not taking meetings, only requesting 3 or less slides? How's excuse me, how is anyone getting any business done that way?
mm,
When did you see
yeah.
that happen, Gavin?
Yeah. I haven't seen 3 or less slides in a hot minute. So I'd be curious where she's seeing that, but, I know I've always been very keen on, like, 6 slides, even if it's a 30-minute meeting, and
Hmm.
I think you can go up to 10 slides if it's a 30-minute meeting, but if you have anything less than that, I think you have to keep it to 6. I think if you're giving a broker 3 slides, man, it better be 3 really compelling slides, and I hope they're just not going through their Rolodex of brands and saying, "Hey, this is." I know Teal works for Wandering Bear, so I'll pick on that for a second, but I like if it's like, "Hey, this is, uh, Suja, this is Evolution Fresh, this is Wandering Bear, and then this is Blackbird Pizza," keep going through. I hope that's not what the broker's doing in a meeting like that. That
Yeah.
because like, that's not doing the, brand any service at that point.
No, no, you're right, and I think she says, okay, 5 or less, but no one is talking to them. If it, I I think, and I'd like your input on this with what she mentioned about not taking meetings because I'm looking back and I think I left Ohio in 2019, and up until I left, we were seeing people, 2-3 days a week. I had to establish vendor days because otherwise it was off the
Yeah,
rails. And so we were seeing people, I think Tuesdays, Thursdays were our designated days, and then we'd fill in a little bit here and there if need be. But primarily Tuesdays and Thursdays were our vendor days. So going back to that, don't email on Mondays. There's a reason why they weren't seeing people on Mondays. And then
yep,
when I went to Rouse's in Louisiana, um, it was up to each category manager, but definitely doing in person. It was regular. Some reps had standing appointments and things like that. When I moved to California with Jimbo's, that was in the middle of COVID, so it was definitely a dead issue there. That's when I really first started doing so much Zoom and meets, whatever, online, and then we started CPG Vibes then as well. And then when I came here to North Carolina, uh, COVID was still a thing, although it was calmed down. However, what I experienced there was that was kind of what they were doing. They really, for the most part, Center Store was very rarely doing in person. They transferred everything over to virtual. And I think now in persons are back to some extent, but I still
mhm,
feel there's a lot of in person, or I'm sorry, Zooms is
yeah.
at the same time. I think there's a little bit of a mix where I know there's some retailers that prefer the video conferencing as opposed to the in-persons, and I think there's some good and bad with that. You can certainly be more efficient and timely as opposed to in person, but then the opportunity to connect and really get to know someone is definitely harder to do when you've got a 15-minute meeting on screen.
No, 100% right. I think, it's really hard to build relationships, and that's where, like, hey, if you can run into that buyer at a trade show and start something there and plant that seed and then have an interaction that's 15 or 30 minutes long on a call, maybe you can get maybe you can kinda get some rapport building. And then with a buyer turnover too, right? Like sometimes it doesn't even matter. Like you can have a good relationship with a buyer and then 3 months later they're promoted or promoted out or promoted to a customer. So all that stuff is challenging. Um, I think I think going back to like deck size and all that kind of stuff, you should be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish in a meeting if you've got uh, a tight brand, right? Like if you've got multiple categories, uh, then multiple categories with one buyer, then obviously you're gonna need more than 6 slides. You can't do that justice. But if you have your products in one category with one buyer, I think you should be able to accomplish everything with 6 to 10 slides and you should be in a good spot. I will say, if buyers aren't taking meetings for a category review, that can tell me like 2 things, right? I think one thing is they've got a pretty good idea what they wanna do with the category, and maybe it's not a heavy lift. Maybe they've reviewed it, maybe it's performing, and they've reviewed with spins or reviewed with RRI, and they have the heavy hitters, right? They have all the things that they need. They don't see innovation, and they're not gonna make dramatic updates, or they've pinpointed a couple brands that they're gonna bring in and then swap out.
Hmm.
I think that's totally fair, right? That buyer has done their homework and understands what they want to accomplish and all that kind of stuff. On the opposite side of that, if they're not taking meetings and they're just having brokers come in and flip through the Rolodex of brands, ah, man, like that would be disappointing to me as a director if I knew my category manager was doing that because that kind of shows me that. they're not relying on their skill set, they're relying on their broker relationships to go through maybe something that stands out, but it's not fact-based or something that they're investing in their own time in.
All right. So I want to come back to Hank's question. Hank, we'll get back here. I'm going to hide you for a second and put Melissa's question up here because it's on topic what we're talking about right now. She's had some feedback, recent feedback with Independence Chicago. It's rare that they see their sales rep, and I kind of want to put this on you. I know we've talked a little bit about. I put you on the spot before about being a brand and what broker expectations and things like that are, but specific to category reviews. I mean, I think it's no secret that you can go on, various websites and submit for consideration and things like that. You may not have visibility to when the exact category review window is, and that's where obviously a relationship with the broker comes in. But let's say for whatever reason you have this is the window of opportunity with this retailer, and so you can do that yourself as a
Mhm,
brand or founder, whatever the case may be. You can hire a broker to do it. If you hire a broker to do it and there is a portal submission, okay, what is your expectation? Going kind of staying in line with what we talked about here with Tia's comment about in-person meetings and Melissa's comment here. What is your expectation if you've hired a broker, but it's a portal submission? What are you expecting out of the broker?
hmm. Uh, so in my path, like I think Sprouts is a good example because I know I've used my broker for Sprouts specifically to do that portal submission.
Mhm,
So I think you can do it as the brand. I don't think it's a heavy lift on your side. You should
mhm,
have all the assets and you should have all the information. It just depends on if you want to submit that yourself. I think they ask for contacts. So a contact you should have is either the main point of contact for the broker and yourself, if that's possible. Um, I think you can go both ways. I think you just want to make sure that it's done.
mhm.
The submission's been completed, and then understanding what happens next, right?
Yeah.
Where does it go? Like, does it go to the category manager? Do you get approval? Do you get rejected? Like, what's that look like? And I think that's then on the broker to understand or to educate the brand in this instance of what happens next.
So let me
Um,
ask you a different way. Um, what are you expecting the broker to do that you couldn't do yourself? And in other or if you're the brand, what am I paying you for?
yeah, yeah.
How would you answer? I mean, what's the answer? I don't have it. I'm curious.
I don't know how to answer that. I think I would. So if in this instance, I would have the broker do the submission
Hmm.
because I'm paying you to do the Sprouts stuff, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Whether it's the contract if we win or the submission and handling the submission. I would take it a step further and uh, know that you've submitted,
Hmm.
and then that's where it's like, hey, who's my buyer? What category did we submit for? And then that's where I would start strategically prodding the broker into giving me the buyer contact information, and then curating a email to the buyer saying, "Hey, we submitted for." I'm just going to use my brand. We
Hmm.
submitted for refrigerated shots,
Hmm.
and I would also screenshot my product in that email, sell sheet, whatever, so they are fluent with what I'm talking about, and take it from there. Right? Don't empty the briefcase. Do a nice intro. You're introing the broker at the same time. Um, hopefully they've worked with them in the past or whatever. Hopefully they know who the broker is and there's a relationship there and just take it from there. That's what I would do with a portal submission.
Yeah, and I think I was going down that from Tia because I think oftentimes as a brand, the expectation is you're hiring a broker obviously to do the work, but also because there is a relationship or they're going to get something that you can't, whether that's a meeting in person, whatever the case may be. And I was curious, given the dialogue with regards to meetings not happening or seldom happening,
Yep.
whatever the course, what then? How do you look at that? Is the broker relationship or value diminished because of that?
I don't think so. Like
Mm,
I think everybody plays a role, right? Like I think us as T and I in sales, Like, our job is to get more sales, right? So
Mhm.
we have to leverage the tools that we have. So if we have a broker, national broker or regional broker, we're relying on that broker to help secure us a meeting or help secure us feedback on why they didn't accept or when they can look at the product, if it's an open review or if it's a category review, right? And me, I want to understand and like this is where I've worked with Jade Street in the past, but like it's been a can of everything, right? Like when we submitted for Kroger last year, um, and I don't want to divulge too much, but we could only give Jade Street a couple slides. From what I interpreted from that is they have a meeting that's maybe 30 minutes long or maybe it's an hour long, and they're going to go through their brands with the buyer,
Mhm.
and hopefully you've put something together that is impactful for that buyer to see. Um, and then on the opposite side of that, I've also had a lot of other dialogues within her team at one of my last companies. And we're pressing for an in person or a Zoom meeting where we can pitch for 15 to 30 minutes, you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
because at that time, 3 SKUs, pretty innovative product. And, can we just secure this meeting? So I think you have to and again, like when you're dealing with a national broker, you have to understand the broker you're working with and then what their actual capabilities are. Like if they can actually get it across the line, I think you have to recognize that pretty fast. Or is this like a region that you have to kind of own yourself?
Got it. No, I think that's solid feedback, and I think uh, I wanted to pull up Melissa's here before we go back to Hank because Hank's got some good stuff here that I want to touch on. She says, "Is there a lost art to balance in-person meetings?" And I think this is something we've talked about, and I know there's been other people that have certainly commented about how busy category managers, buyers, decision makers are. Um, and I don't know. Is it your perception, Gavin? You spent time on that side of the desk. I've spent most of my career on that side of the desk. Uh, are expectations for those roles today now different than they were 5, 10, 15 years ago? Are they more demanding, less demanding, the same? What's your take on what's expected out of those positions in retail now?
Hmm. That's honestly a good question. I mean, well, I'm removed, I think 4 years from a buying position. So
But you've had contact, and I
yeah.
mean, which
I think we just live in a stressful world in general, right? I think everybody handles stress. I think retail stress is definitely demanding because retail is 24/7, 365, right? Like you definitely have to be wired to do those jobs. Your job doesn't necessarily stop. It's just it's very repetitive, right? Like you're if you're managing eggs or like if you're managing dairy, you're always managing dairy. You're always on. You're on the weekends. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday are your biggest sales days typically in retail. So, if you're thinking you're going to have a nice relaxing weekend, well, guess what? Your stores are open and they're cranking sales. So, I think each buyer probably has to figure out and understand um what their priorities are. And I think each retailer is different and each retailer's priorities are different. Some retailers are going to be lapping year over year sales, and you're going to be one of the uh, like Wegmans or Meyer or some of these guys who are just growing year in, year out. Sprouts is one of these that's growing year in, year out. You might not actually be the best category manager, but your traffic in store is increasing. And whatever decision you make is going to be a good one, probably. Like you can make
Mhm.
a bad decision and it's not going to be detrimental to the business because traffic in store is increasing. Um, but I don't know where I'm going with that. I just think like every category manager's got to manage their business accordingly, and new brands and new items are a part of that. And it is a
Right.
game and balancing margin too that uh, retailers use to leverage new brands and emerging brands.
Yeah. No, I spot on, and I'm getting to Hank real quick. I'm just gonna touch on this quickly from my standpoint. Um, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think for me, what I would say I experienced maybe in the last 5 to 6 years of the my side, being on that side of the desk at various companies I was at, not just one, was that the amount of internal meetings, and I'm talking across
Yeah.
multiple organizations, not I'm not picking on anybody, multiple organizations versus what I'd experienced the first half of my career had changed significantly for whatever reason. And part of that was, I moved up and I was doing more within the organization. So internal there were more, but I also feel like the amount of internal meetings for even at the category manager level had increased significantly versus what I'd experienced in the first half of my career.
Yeah, I will say, like, the once you get to that director level and up, like, yeah, you're so far removed from, like, the day-to-day stuff. I think you're probably the people who were category managers or assistant category managers that get promoted into VPs, I think they probably think about it differently, right? They still like to dig into the details.
Hmm.
But I think those seasoned CPG or retail leaders, they remove themselves from that, right?
Right.
Maybe they haven't done that in 20 years, and they're just very top lined and um, top line heavy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, going back to your point on the CMs and stuff, like, yeah, there's just so much internal stuff, right? Like, if you're working in an office, I know for me, I've said this before, but like I always allocated typically Thursdays to just in person or Zoom meetings for new items or broker meetings and all that kind of stuff. That was my day to allocate to the community um, that wanted to present to me. It could be a new item, it could be an existing brand, doing a check in, all that kind of stuff. And I think each buyer probably needs just to figure out how many hours they can allocate to that, because that's important, right? Like, you can't just ghost or not have a lot of broker conversations, because look, you have a budget too, right? You
Hmm.
have to bring in ad money, you have to bring in new item money, you have to bring in new sales, like
Right.
innovation, like all those metrics that you hadn't hit. I think I saw this from Rich about uh I think he's asking retailers measure performance relative to store traffic. Absolutely. Like, that is going to be a high level executive metric that is captured, right? So, like, on a per store basis, you want to know how many transactions you had, how many customers you had each week at each of those retailers. Because if you're growing, that's great. How can you add another item? Because, like, let's just say
Hmm.
you have 10,000 customers going to your store. If you add one more dollar to that purchase, that's $10,000 in sales you just
Hmm.
secured, right?
Yep.
If
Yep.
you added 50 cents, that's now $5,000. If you added $5, just one average grocery ring, that is now $50,000 on 10,000 customers that you just added. So, like, those are really, really important metrics to track. If you're not tracking that, then I think you're driving blind and I think you're lost.
No, and I went through various stages throughout my career where operations was driving that as far as one more item in every basket. So that's when the suggestive selling and upselling and all those things
Yeah.
come into play. So all ways of padding that, but
And there's
look,
so many ways to do that, right?
there are,
Customer service. It's
there are,
it's your grocery manager. It's your assistant store manager in the store just saying, "Hi, can I help you find something?" Or, "Hey, I tried this. This is an amazing new item that we have." It's just, again, you can't do that with every single person or every single person in the store, but it's those customer interactions at store level that can really impact positively the consumer having a good experience with customer service, but then potentially adding a chocolate bar into someone's cart because they tried it for the first time and it's amazing.
right, right. I flashed this on the screen, but I wanted to read it for anyone listening after the fact. From Derek, it said, category management has become so much more data driven. Some of the newer buyers don't even want anything beyond that. Zoom versus in person is like text versus call. I think it's a really, really good point. And
I
welcome,
will just say
Kenny.
on that too, like, I think every category manager, should be data driven. There's no doubt about
Mhm.
that. Like, their job is to grow sales, and you don't want to just not pay attention to data, because if you disco GT's ginger ale from your set, like, that's a horrible decision, right? Like,
Mhm.
you're not going to do that. But um, you also have to have a little bit of, you know, thinking down the road of like, hey, what are my customers looking for
Right.
6 months down the road? Like, when you do a category review, right? Like, you can't just do the exact same thing that you did last year. times change and customer behavior changes in stores. So, a good category manager is going to have that blend of risk reward and also, knowing what's working in their stores and all that kind of stuff. So, if they are just being data driven, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you do have to, I think, have to have the ability to innovate too.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's solid. Want to welcome Kenny joining us. All right, so let's touch on what Hank had. I got to scroll back a little bit and try and find the first thing. He's since corrected himself and said that maybe this was a little bit dated, a couple weeks old, but he said, anyone seen the post that there were one or more national distribution companies are going to face a lawsuit? And they listed four reasons, and he put a couple links in the chat for those articles and said it seems like they're a couple weeks old, but I was trying to skim one, and it looks like, just reading the bottom line, it says this is someone trying to rally the troops with his email address. It says, if you've suffered from unauthorized chargebacks, unverified trade spend deductions, or if your business failed due to distributor payment irregularities, please reach out. So it sounds like somebody trying to drum up some traction. And, again, 3 weeks old, it looks like it got a decent amount of response and things like that. And first time I've seen it. So the links from Hank are in the chat. I'm going to check those out after the fact. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Interesting
then
stuff.
Hank says, when we pitch grocery, it'll be the story of how the berry will drive that additional item in the cart. And, like, again, that's where the innovation thing is. And I've seen a lot of these, I know we talked about all these innovative beverages that are creatine plus and protein plus and all that kind of stuff. And now I've seen candy evolve, especially natural organic over the last couple of years, and Rotten's one of those. And um small items like that are incremental to the purchase. And if you can create cool merchandising concepts or clip strips or whatever that, maybe a retailer is okay with, those are great ways to create new ways of execution in store and impulse towards
Right.
checkout and things like that. And I would always argue, like, just going back on the add in one more item, great merchandising in store will allow you to get closer to that one or two items extra in a basket. If you have 10,000 customers and 500 of them pick up one or two more things because of great merchandising or great display towards the checkout or facing the checkout, like, man, like, that just goes so long. Um, Especially if you have magnitude of stores. Like, if you have 50 stores expertly merchandising, it's a lot of added dollars in a basket.
Yeah, Jeff's comment here. Market Basket has the helpful staff thing locked down, usually a team member in every aisle available to help a customer. And I think that's super important, especially depending on how you go to market. I see on any retailer, right? And we outside of the grocery world, right? I mean, Nordstrom's famous for their customer service, but I think many of the organizations I worked at over the years talked about customer service and making that a focal point. And one of the primary reasons, besides it's what you need to do in the hospitality business, one of the primary reasons was because we knew we weren't the cheapest, so we could in our minds justify a little bit more premium on our same items that they were selling across the street, because we provided better customer service and better quality of just across the board. And we had policies where if I asked you where something was, you had to walk me to that in the store. You couldn't just say it's aisle 12 or whatever. So little touches like that. And in Ohio they had the pickup lanes where we put our we had baggers that bagged the groceries. They put it in a tote, put it in the lane, the conveyor belt that took it outside. When I was finished paying, went out to my car, drove through the pickup lane, someone put them in my car for me. So little things like that you don't get in an Aldi or someplace where
I
it's price wise, right?
I had one of those experiences a couple weeks ago. Stopped in a store, needed something, aisle 12. And it's just like, God damn it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
just show me where it is. It's easier. If it's aisle 12, just take me there. But then I'm walking up and down aisle 12 and, like, looking for the signs. And I wanted it to be a little bit easier than what it was. But I do appreciate that you at least knew what aisle it
right.
was in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of stuff. Was it hearing DTC say that they're going to drive their community to your store is music to a buyer's ears too. And I think to Derek's point, that's really relevant right now, because, and it's not good enough to just say, oh, I've got 2 million followers on Instagram or whatever. Um, I need to know at my retail location what you're doing specific to me to bring customers to my store, not that you have this $2 million followers and 2 million people wanting to buy your product, because that doesn't mean they're coming to me, to my store to get it. I need to know what
Yeah.
that partnership is and how it's going to come to my store.
Yeah, and I think this is actually getting tired too. Like, I think buyers are kind of sick and tired of hearing about these D2C brands that are going to drive traffic to the store because they've, over the last 5 years, D2C has been really hot in
Mhm,
store, right? And I think there's been some really successful brands that have made paved that way. Like, I think of Bloom as an example, and
mhm,
um, Greg, the CEO of Bloom, he does a really good job of communicating to his audience of how they created success. And when they launched into Target and they turned off D2C and they made their website, I think pull up a Target store that was close to them
mm,
and push them into Target. And then it became Target's best-selling supplement in the store. I think I might have got that a little wrong, but that's what they did is they turned D2C off and focused hardcore on retail. And then I think when they launched to Walmart, they did the same thing. They made all the Walmarts that, so like if you were in Charlotte, it would pinpoint you to go to your local Charlotte Walmart store to buy Bloom. And
mm,
then obviously, I think that was just something they did retailer to retailer and build that presence. And that was a way for them to, actually direct their audience instead of going to Amazon to buy it or going there to their D2C website to buy it. You have to buy it at Walmart. And that was a good way for them to build up their customer base and build up more customers and all that. So yeah, I think retail buying is the hardest thing to do, like even as an established brand, if you're launching a new product or a new line extension, it's not just as easy as getting it into the retailer. It's getting it to pull off that retail shelf, and that's the hardest thing in this industry to do.
right, right. Well, and I think I know I've had this conversation about every retailer has their own merchandising programs, and I say merchandising is not just about putting product on the floor; it's marketing programs, right? It's a weekly ad, it's an incremental end cap, it's a newsletter, it's an email, it's online the media shopping, things like that. And in my opinion, a good partner, whether you're a broker or brand, are going to have those conversations. You don't just have your blueprint for introduction to retail. You might
Mhm.
have a trade spend that you want to achieve, a percentage. You might have kind of a general speaking roadmap, or what you want to do, but you need to consider. Okay, I've got this. I think this came up in old conversation that I was tagged in earlier this week. I've got X amount of dollars to spend. How do I invest it with you to drive traffic to your stores? You
Mhm.
as a category manager should have the answer to that. You should be able to
Yep.
tell me hey, Gavin, this is a waste of money. Don't go here. Or no, if you want the bang for your buck, this is what you want to do, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's a true partnership.
Yep. Yep. And each category manager should understand. And look, I think today, with everything that's happening in retail, you have your digital footprint, and a CM is going to be responsible for a bucket for that, right? They're also going to be responsible for a bucket for ad spend, and they're going to be responsible for a bucket for display spend, right? Like a category manager, again, doesn't just look at new items and all that kind of stuff. They have all these buckets that are part of their merchandising program. That's a part of their bonus probably and all that. So, but if you're telling me that you have $30,000 to spend with me as a retailer and I know that displays work, I want all $30,000 to go in displays.
Hmm.
And then I'll figure out the ad spend with my other brands. But if you think you've got a banger of an item and I know it's going to be display worthy and it's going to drive velocity and things like that, that's where I want that spend to go to.
Right. Right.
And
Well.
and hopefully a category
Hmm.
manager is more upfront and honest with you on that. Because like, the last thing I think I know we gotta go, but the last thing I think a good category manager would wanna do is say, "Hey, I want $5,000 in digital. I want $5,000 in displays. I want $5,000 in ads." And it's just like, I think each buyer wants velocity, they want turns, they want sales. Because
Right.
like, if that product doesn't work, you're gonna get discoed in a year.
Right. No, spot on, spot on. Yeah, we're at time. I don't know where the hour went. In the beginning, I thought, well, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl all day, and here we are, an hour later, and we're still going. So, I have to break it to everybody. We're not going to be here next week because we decided to take an extended Valentine's weekend. I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going yet, but I'm going to do something. I'm beating this
Well, wait,
cold, and
I got one Valentine. It's my little girl.
yeah.
It's we're gonna do it big, and Theo's got his mama as his main Valentine squeeze. So we're gonna do something cute. I think next Saturday, and last year they were just little peanuts. So
Right. It'll be
this year
fun.
we're gonna do it right and have a good time.
Right on. So we won't be here next Friday, but we will be back in 2 weeks, and we've got a guest in 2 weeks. And you want to share who that is?
Go for it.
No, you set it up. I've got to dig it up. It's Mike. Is
Oh
it?
yeah, Mike
Yeah, I was
Levinson.
gonna say I wanted to dig up the but yeah, you set it up.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a good chat with Mike from Food Service Octopus or FS Octopus, and he is gonna talk all things food service. We saw him on the Dogs of is that it? Dogs
Yep.
of Society.
Yeah.
Um, Really good conversation they had with Peter and Jeff, or he had with Peter and Jeff, and we're gonna take that conversation and we're gonna dig into it a little bit more because it's gonna be so relevant to all emerging brands and the benefits of food service versus retail. So we look forward to having that conversation in a couple weeks.
Well, and speaking of Peter and Jeff, and I don't know if I'm allowed to completely say what I want to say, so I'm just
Oh,
going.
go for it. I think we can plug it.
Are are we allowed to plug it? Jeff, you're still listening. If you're still listening, are we allowed to say?
He just said it. Let's do it.
There, okay. There, I was going to say. Now that he said it, Gavin and I will be on with Jeff and Peter next week on the Where the Dog Society Howl next Thursday, and that is, correct me if
1:30.
I'm 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So
Yep.
that should
Yep.
be a lot of fun. And they were on our show a couple weeks. It's been probably a month or so
Month,
back.
maybe 2 months.
Yeah, but
Or
so
yeah.
we're flipping the script, and we get to let them ask us questions and hang out with them.
Yeah, they run a really good show. It's really fun. It's really engaging. We'll see if Robert joins. He's had some pretty piss poor internet connections over the last couple weeks, or at least 2 weeks ago when I plugged in. I wasn't able to meet it yesterday, but
Yeah, and I often have to watch it after or listen to it after the fact because I don't always have time free. I try to pop in and discreetly, or if I'm able to just actually focus and tune in and jump in the chat. But they have a great show, so
yep.
we look forward to doing that. So that instead of us doing our Friday show, we're going to be on with them. So I figure
Yeah.
we've kind of done our just due there. So we'll see everybody back here 2 weeks on Friday. Plus it's Friday the 13th next week. It's just bad
Bad
karma.
luck, dude.
Yeah. So 2 weeks, February 20th, we'll have Mike Livingston with Food Service Octopus and Dogs of Where the Dog Society Howl next Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll see everybody then. Take care.
Later.